Well, thanks, Chet. This is Dennis Wilenchik, and it's 4 o'clock, and every Wednesday we bring you Legalease here on KFNX News Talk Radio. And this week we're very pleased to have with us the candidate, one of the two candidates that are vying for mayor of the city of Phoenix, Arizona, Wes Gullett. And Wes is a Republican who's seeking the job. We're going to find out during the show why he's seeking it. I do want to say before we get going, first of all, thank you for being on the show, Wes.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Appreciate it. It's a tough campaign there, and you narrowed it down here to you and Stanton.
Yeah, we had 6 people, now we have 2.
Yeah.
So it was an adventure.
Yeah, and as I said off the air, I was a supporter of Peggy Neely, as my audience knows. I've known Peggy for years. She's a good person, and she has never said anything bad to me about you, and I think at this point I'm sure she's going to support you, but I think all the Republicans now are going to have to get behind you to win this, and Stanton got the most votes, I guess, in the election that occurred, but of course he was the only Democratic candidate, so it's not too surprising.
Right, it's a nonpartisan race, but it basically broke down to a 5-way Republican primary.
Yeah.
He came out with 20% of the vote, and was thrilled to have that. So, and Greg had nobody on his side eating up his votes. So now it's the bottom line is 62% of the people voted against Greg Stanton.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point, and we'll find out during the show why, from your perspective. But I do want to say to our listening audience that knows me that we did try, in fairness, to have Mr. Stanton on the show. In fact, to debate Wes here on the show for the hour. He has found all kinds of reasons why not. He can't do it, and without further comment, the bottom line is he is not here by his own choice, not by ours. So Wes was good enough to be here, and we appreciate that. And let's get into it, Wes. Let me talk first about your professional and personal background so the audience knows who you are. I think sometimes during these campaigns it becomes a situation where, we don't know who you are really.
Right.
So you are the founding partner in the firm First Strategic Communications and Public Affairs. You served, and we'll get into that, but you served on the Phoenix Planning and Zoning Commission for 5 years. You were chief of staff for then Arizona Governor Fife Symington. That must have been an interesting job, by the way.
It was a fascinating job.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. And in addition, you had a 7-year tenure working with U.S. Senator John McCain as Maricopa County Field Director, Campaign Manager, and Deputy Campaign Manager. I think your wife also worked for him too, didn't she?
Yeah, I actually worked for my wife. She was my boss.
Yeah, I seem to remember that. That's right. and your wife's a lovely person, by the way. Everybody that I know that knows her says that. And Wes served 3 years as senior media producer on Capitol Hill, working for the United States Senate Republican Conference. And of course, he's active in our community. He was a board member of St. Mary's High School Scholarship Foundation, which is right down the street from us. A member of Arizona Citizens for the Arts, the Arizona State Land Commissioners Conservation Advisory Commission, the Arizona chapter of Nature Conservancy, and the City of Phoenix Airport Planning Commission. So he's been pretty active. Wes is a native of Iowa and attended the University of Iowa. I have an associate from that school and thinks it's a great place. And I noticed that your assistant here today, your relative, is also from Iowa, right?
Yes, we brought out my nephew to be my driver for the last 60 days.
Because he works cheap.
Yeah, he works really cheap, and he stays at my house, so he's available 24/7.
Right. That's great. Well, Wes, let's start talking really about number one, of course, the main question on the minds of our listeners. Why do you want to be mayor?
We're at a crossroads right now, and we can either continue to do things the way we've been doing them and wait for the economy to get better, or we can actually go in, make some changes, and get this economy going again. It's going to take a laser focus on jobs. I've got a jobs plan, the 7-point jobs plan that will help us get the economy going again. But if we wait around, if we just continue to do things like we've done them in the past, I think we're going to be in trouble. Because in 2008 the world changed, and everybody in business changed, and our families changed. Everybody changed the way they did business. They tightened their belts, and the city didn't. The city increased prices and
can't do business as usual anymore.
Yeah, you just can't.
Well, in that regard, by the way, I believe your 7-point jobs plan has been put out there. It's probably on the web, I'm sure. And why don't you just summarize, if you can, for our listeners, what that consists of?
It's fairly basic.
Yeah.
And that is, one, we have to take advantage of the assets that we already have. Two, we've got to get government out of the way and reduce the cost of government to business, reduce permit fees, make it easier for businesses to grow and expand
Right.
and start, so that we can actually empower small businesses to get going. And because they're creating 90% of the jobs, we've got to use all of our partnerships with our banks and others to leverage money wherever we can to create investment pools for small business, because investment dollars are tight, the loan dollars are tight. We've got to use those relationships that we have. We bank $3 billion a year at the city of Phoenix. We need to use that to get more than free checking.
You know, a lot of people ask me, what is the mayor of Phoenix? What does the mayor do? So maybe in a very brief answer, you can tell us what exactly the mayor does and what power the mayor has to affect any of this change.
Well, the mayor sets the agenda, and that's the most important thing. Sets the agenda for the city council, which then sets the agenda for the city management. We have a strong city manager form of government. So the mayor, it's not like Chicago where the mayor gets to pick and do all kinds of stuff. But the mayor can set the agenda. The mayor does direct the policy attention. And in my case, I'd be the fifth vote for reform on many, many reforms that are necessary in the
critical
city,
vote.
yeah,
Critical
in
vote.
the city of Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to put those reforms on the agenda.
Well, tell us in that regard why that fifth vote would be so much more important held in your hands than Greg Stanton's hands. So that's where we're
Well,
at right
Greg was on the city council for 9 years. He's got all kinds of ideas right now, but none of them which he offered during that 9-year period. He offered a couple, but not the 65 that he's offering right now on his website. And he is supported by the entrenched people in the city of Phoenix, the labor unions, the public employee unions,
Yeah.
and a lot of the entrenched
Business
special
as usual
interests.
people.
Yeah, and so my fear is that he's going to be the go along to get along guy, and we need to challenge the system. We need to have reform.
So you're going to shake up the system.
I am. I'm going to shake up the system. I've got four or five people on various issues that are willing to do it with me. And,
Well, let me ask you, what would you do differently, really, than Gordon's doing, you know, in the big picture?
Well, we'd get rid of the food tax immediately.
That's an insane thing to me.
Right. And we're balancing the budget on the backs of the people.
Right.
We need significant pension reform with our employees. Police and fire pensions are actually run by the state, but we have our own pension fund for everybody else. We need to reform that system. It's not sustainable the way it is. We also need to institute performance-based pay, so that we're not just giving
Well, there's a big thing that's going to rattle a lot of feathers, huh?
Oh yeah, well yeah, but it makes sense,
Yeah,
because
of
it
course it
creates
does.
a nimble, more effective, efficient city government.
Well, it makes it more like private enterprise.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, well, we have just about a minute before our break, but what's the single biggest thing that you would tackle before once you took office?
Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to repeal the food tax.
Okay.
But we're going to have a laser focus on job creation. Everything we do, we've got to focus on how that helps small businesses and retain big businesses here in the city of Phoenix, and ultimately attract businesses from around the country to come to Phoenix. What we need to do is put a big sign on the City Hall that says, Phoenix, open for business.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about that and some other issues that were in the paper just recently about your campaign as soon as we come back from these crass commercial messages.
All right.
This is Dennis Wilenchik, and we're here back on Legalease. And by the way, you can find our shows archived on Legalease. That's LEGALESE.com, or you can go to the Wilenchik and Bartness website. You can click on Legalease and look at prior shows we've had. Had a lot of interesting guests on recently, and today we have another interesting guest, Wes Gullett, who hopefully will be our next mayor. He's running against Greg Stanton, a Democratic candidate. And as I said at the beginning of the show, we invited Mr. Stanton on, but he declined, found reasons why he couldn't be here, let's put it that way. So Wes was good enough to be here, and that's good enough for me. He has a lot of good ideas on what he's going to do as soon as he hopefully takes office that we're talking about. So Wes, we were talking during the break about some ideas that you had, for example, about how to streamline government processes by such things as privatization of services, permitting processes. Why don't you tell the listeners what that's all about? Because I think the newspaper reported that as well.
Right. We had a debate last night, and there's a definite difference between Greg Stanton and I and the choice I think is pretty clear for voters. I want to have self-certification in the permitting process, so that when the people who are building the buildings, they come in one-day permit. You pull your permit, and then you're given, you know what the code is. You have to build to that code, but you self-certify. You've got certified contractors, you've got engineers, architects that are all licensed in the state of Arizona, and they have all the liability anyway. The city doesn't have the liability for this. So you take the
That's true, legally they don't.
you take the inspectors out and waiting around for inspectors.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a horror story
A
about
lot of wasted money.
But you have an audit, and the audit makes sure that people are doing it. The contractors that are building it, the licensed contractors, they have to then prove that they're doing it just like they're self-inspecting.
So does the city
they
approve
keep
the
a record
permit?
of it. The city approves a permit. You know that you're given the code. Here's what you've got to live up to for this permit. You've got to meet these standards, and then you have the responsibility to do it. You have the liability to do it anyway.
Right.
So what we're just doing is taking out the waiting around for the inspectors, the hassle. You get one inspector one day and he says you got to do it this way, and the next inspector says you got to do it this way. You get to pick your timeline. You move as quickly as you can.
Which is what we need right now.
Right, because getting product to market is the most important thing right now.
Well,
in
getting
this
people to
economy.
buy the product is part of the problem today, I guess.
Right, so, and if it's a restaurant, for example, you don't have to wait around 18 months to serve your first meal.
That's a great idea.
You get it in 6 months or 3 months. But the audit is important because then you have to have a record of how you kept all these things going.
Well, today most builders, in my experience, really are good at that, knowing the liability issues in front of the registrar. Otherwise, they take videos and they take photographs regularly of the processes.
And they're defending themselves against the inspectors
Exactly,
sometimes.
right.
Now, we're just taking that step out of the way. They're still going to do that work.
Okay.
And if they don't, their license is in jeopardy, and so is their business.
Yeah, of course.
So I think it makes an infinite amount of sense.
And they're licensed contractors
Right.
anyway.
And we move that quicker. And guess what? It goes back to putting that big sign up that says we're open for business. This is something that would be.
Can the mayor
unique in
make a
Phoenix.
change in that regard, just in the attitude down at the city hall?
Yeah. Having
Or is
a
the
sense-
bureaucracy just so far gone?
No, having a sense of urgency, being a leader, going down, meeting with the staff, meeting with the employees, being positive about doing good work. And if you add in performance-based pay, guess what? You're getting those people who are fired up. They're actually being rewarded for doing that good work.
What a novel idea.
It creates a nimble entrepreneurial city, and that's what we need today.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Now, let me just, the problem that I'm having is, why would Stanton oppose something like that? What is he in favor of?
Well, he said we should look at it, we should think about it. That's political speak for maybe when we might do that, if everything works out perfectly. And what I'm saying is we need to do it.
Now.
And we need to do it now.
Yeah.
And I've got votes that'll go along to do that. And Sal DiCiccio and Bill Gates and Tom Simplot, Jim Waring, these guys are in favor of it. It's frankly
We
their
actually have
idea.
a very good city council right now, don't we?
We can have an excellent city council.
Yeah.
And if we have a mayor who is committed to reform and committed to getting this economy going again through hard work and reducing costs. And
All right,
reducing
let me
red tape,
change the
people work.
focus a little bit.
Okay.
You may not want to comment on some of this, but what is Phoenix now, the 5th or 6th largest city in the country?
Yeah, we dropped to 6. We were 5th for about a year and a half.
Yeah, so who took us, San Diego?
Philly.
Philly. Well, that's really depressing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we'll have to do something about that. But anyway, we'll be back as number 5, folks. But the bottom line is, we've had a mayor in office who has focused on certain things, such as flying around the world, meeting with every Arabian country that I know of. I guess some of that can be attributable to his intention to promote Phoenix, to give him the benefit of the doubt. Is that what we need right now, or is that the wrong priority?
The hard part, to be fair to Phil, he did a great job in the beginning. He was fired up. He got people fired up. Brought the community.
Did he just
together.
lose interest or what?
Well, the shelf life of a mayor is about 6 years. I mean, he's been there for 8. We haven't had they haven't all stayed for the full term, but
Because I do agree with what you just said. He did a great job at the beginning.
yeah. And so what we need now, I just think we need. It's been 28 years since we have elected somebody to mayor who wasn't on the city council.
Yeah.
And it's time we do it again. Because what we need to do is bring some fresh eyes, some fresh energy into this to the city hall. And I think it will make a tremendous difference. People will be fired up. You'll get, we will be more nimble and we will be more entrepreneurial.
Yeah, that's great. Well, getting back to Mayor Gordon again, and I don't expect you to sit here and just bash the guy. That's not the point of this conversation, but nor would it be productive. But in terms of his priorities, I guess what I'm asking,
Right.
how he saw bringing in business, because I think he was sincere about that. But he went about it in sort of a PR campaign, which you have expertise in, actually. He doesn't. What's your thoughts on that, given your background with public relations and so forth? How do we promote the city of Phoenix?
I think we promote the city of Phoenix by putting that big sign up that says we're open for business, actually doing the reforms and getting down in the weeds and doing some of the tough stuff that is necessary in the details.
But I mean, will you go out and try to attract business directly?
Absolutely. But instead of going overseas, I'm going to go to Los Angeles. And, we need to bring in those businesses who are leaving and fleeing out of California to Phoenix instead of Texas.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you, actually. I was just in Texas recently, and it's just going gangbusters down there.
Yes, 550,000 new jobs in Texas, while we lost to them.
Yeah, what's the reason for that?
Cost. When you talk to the economic development people, at the end of the day, we lose out to Texas on cost. Our cost line is going up. We raised water rates 100%. We've doubled our permit fees. We've got a tax on food. So these guys are smart, and they're making a long-term investment decision. And they say, well, we're going to look at trend lines, and the trend lines in Phoenix are that costs are going up. Texas, it's flat. If we flatten our cost line, we'll be much more competitive.
So we don't have to give these kinds of incentives like on the City North thing. That's not what brings in people.
I don't believe that. I believe that if we just lower our overall cost line, we can be much more competitive.
What about these other cities like Houston, Dallas, that are really just going wild? Are they giving any of these big incentives?
Some of them are, but not as big. It really is based on cost. Well, and people say, oh, they've got the energy. We've got energy too. We've got great energy potential here. And we've got all kinds of different potential businesses like data management, things like that, because we don't have any natural disasters.
And we actually, before our break, we actually have seen sort of a slowing down of the growth of Phoenix. I mean, everything that kept Phoenix alive in my 40-something years here was construction, and that's dead right now.
The numbers in the paper the other day were, we had a 0.7% growth rate. To put that in perspective, the national average was 2.5.
Right.
We were at 0.7. Detroit was at 0.8.
And then finally, before a break, of course, Phoenix itself is losing out to some of the other surrounding areas too, right? Isn't it?
But yes, and we've got to be regional. We've got to cooperate with. We need to celebrate when Mesa gets the first solar plant, and say that's okay, because half of that value is going to reside in Phoenix anyway. The employees are going to.
But I mean, people seem to be fleeing to Scottsdale, North Scottsdale. We've got to stop that trend too, right?
Well, if we put that big sign at City Hall, it'll make a big difference.
Okay, well, with that, we're going to take our break shortly. Oh, okay. Well, I just found out we had 2 minutes. I thought he had given me the sign that we had to take a break. So.
Well, good.
Yeah. So let's talk also about your support of SB 1070 and whether that's an important thing for the city.
Well, immigration is a tough issue. It always is. We've got to enforce the law, and we've got to make sure that that our police department has the tools, the leadership, and the training to be able to enforce the law fairly.
Well, how big a problem is illegal immigration to the city of Phoenix? Is it really a big problem?
It's less of a problem today than it was 3 or 4 years ago. What the problem is letting the gangs get in, organized crime, human trafficking, drug trafficking, getting a foothold in Phoenix. And we've got to fight that organized crime. We've got to be very aggressive about it and not let that happen in Phoenix, because that can have an enormously deleterious.
Well, one of the things I know the mayor does get involved is the police department, right?
Right.
So that's gonna be a high priority
Yeah,
on your list.
and we've got to get in, we have to hire a police chief.
Yeah,
It's been too long
Yeah.
not to have a police chief. We have an acting police chief. We need to have a permanent police chief because the police department responds to leadership.
right.
And right now, it's untenable to be in a situation where we don't have a police chief as long as we.
Can the mayor really do anything about illegal immigration though?
Oh, but we can. I think we need to make sure Washington understands it's important, and that we've got to have a national policy, and we've got to talk to them about that all the time.
And that's different than our current posture, right? With Mayor
well,
Gordon?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll come back to that point and some others. We're here with Wes Gullett, who's one of the 2 candidates for mayor of Phoenix, and we'll find out in November
8th.
November 8th is the big day. So we'll be back after these messages. This is Dennis Wilenchik, and we're on Legalese. And I found out that during the break from my producer Robert, who's always listening, that the website is actually www.legalese, LEGALESE online.com. Thank you, Robert, for that. And I don't even know my own website, so that's embarrassing.
Well, my website is wesgullett.com.
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 Let's spell it.
Yeah,
Wes-
Gullett.
Right, there you go.
WES.
That's easy enough. In the future, we'll have to get rid of that online thing.
And you can even contribute on it.
We will.
It's awesome.
We will, and I hope all my listeners do. Because we've been talking with Wes Gullett, who is running for mayor, and of course, Wes started out as a relative unknown. So Greg Stanton was on the council, does have name recognition, and so it's a tough climb for Wes. He's got to overcome that. Hopefully he will, as a Republican candidate. We do have a Republican city here, last time I checked, don't we?
It's about even.
Is it?
Yeah, it's about 50-50.
So it's really more
and
county even.
Independence, the county is heavily Republican. But
Yeah.
The city of Phoenix is about 50-50, and which is great. And I'm campaigning all over town.
Right.
I have been in
You're up in
South
the early
Phoenix,
morning and you're turning late.
I go anywhere, and people say, he goes to the Tea Party. Oh, that's bad. Well, I go everywhere. I spend time on Spanish language radio. I go to South Phoenix. I will go anywhere I'm invited.
Well, as a mayor, you have to.
Exactly, because we've got to bring everybody together at the end of the day to solve these problems and make sure that everybody is heard. That's an important factor in this whole thing. And that's one of my concerns about Greg Stanton. He wouldn't come on the radio today
Right.
because this is a conservative station.
Right.
Well, come on, Greg. You're going to have to represent all the people, not just the Democrats who are
Exactly.
comfortable. You got to get out
Not
of your
just the
comfort
unions.
zone. And if you can't, then you can't go.
Well, I got to tell you, in all honesty, I was really surprised by him finding ways not to come on for the reason that, in all honesty, I contributed $500, I'm just going to say this publicly, to one of his campaigns when he ran. He ran as pro-business, and a client of mine was a large home building company invited me to a function where he spoke and met him, and this was years ago, but I contributed the maximum to his campaign at the time. So it's not like if he were here, I wouldn't give him a full opportunity to say his piece, whether I agree with him or not.
Right.
So I am kind of surprised that he chose that path, but look, that's his choice. The bottom line is he's on wherever he is right now, doing whatever he's doing, hopefully listening to the show. Maybe he'll come on after this, but because if he does, we give him a fair opportunity to speak his mind. But bottom line is you're here, and I appreciate that, as I said, the fact that you do get around and you do try to make an effort to talk to everyone, which is critical.
You've got to reach out. You've got to, and it's important to let people know what you stand for, and to answer the questions when you're asked directly. And what I try and do is do that. Greg's attacked me a lot lately because I answer questions. He doesn't. Last night we had a classic example of it on water rates. I think we've raised water rates enough, 100% over the last 10 years. That's enough.
Yeah.
There's plenty
It's like
of
the food
money.
tax. It's just silliness.
Well, there's plenty of money to do the job and
There's
keep
other
us
ways to
safe.
get money.
And if we do that, $24 million is what they took out of the economy last year when they raised the water rate 7%. $24 million. Let's leave that in the private economy so it can be creating jobs.
Yeah.
And last night, Greg wouldn't answer the question.
Yeah.
The question.
Well, How is the city of Phoenix doing in terms of that? Is the budget balanced in the city of Phoenix?
We're required to have a balanced budget. We have a balanced budget. We have a AAA bond rating. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But we continue to increase cost, increase price. And you and I know that when things changed as a business person, if you say, oh, well, you know, we're losing business, things are bad, let's raise prices. Guess what? People don't buy.
Right.
And I think that's what's happened in the
You see what
city of
happened to
Phoenix.
Netflix? Have you followed that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so what we did at my company was we had a sale. We lowered costs. We went out. We doubled down on the work we did. And so that's what the city of Phoenix needs to do. We need to cut costs to attract people. Down in Marana, they've reduced permit fees. They've made it easier for business. And guess where the cranes are in Pima County? They're in Marana.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do
It's
in the
not
city of
complicated,
Phoenix.
really. All right, let's focus with the time we have left on some other issues. Let's talk about the light rail system. My understanding from reading the newspaper is that, again, this is their take on it, that you were somehow opposed, I think, to expansion of light rail at this time. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and what I've said is that we shouldn't put more Phoenix money into light rail until we do the planning for the light rail that we already have.
Okay.
We've known it's going to be here for 14 years. We did the construction. We had dislocation, economic dislocation along the construction route. And on Camelback Road from Central to 19th Avenue, it looks like Detroit.
Yeah.
We can't, we need to do the planning to attract that investment.
Well, where do
so
they want to
we can-
expand light rail to? I'm not quite
Well,
clear on that.
right now the proposal immediately is to expand it up 19th Avenue from Bethany home to Dunlap. And the land is there. It is part of the plan. It's part of the voter approved plan. But we're going to borrow money to do it, and I don't know that we have a plan on how we're going to pay it back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why these guys are always so hot to trot on the bond rating. I
Now,
think it's
Stanton
great
is
that
for the expansion, correct?
Yes.
And
Well, I think. I don't know.
Well, is he ever committed?
I don't think he actually committed last night, but he said that it was important to the voters.
Well, let's talk about what you know he is committed to that you disagree with strongly, okay? The things that you can pin him down on.
Well, he's got 40 plus ideas of how to grow government.
I take it you're not in favor of growing government, particularly at this time.
Yeah, we've got to be very careful about that.
Right.
We can't afford it, and we've got to tighten our belt right now and focus on what we can do well, and save money. But when we save that money and we find those efficiencies, we need to do it with a purpose. And my purpose is to get rid of the food tax, and to also reinvest in important things like after-school programs. We cut those from 100 to 30 for at-risk youth.
So you're saying put our money where it will work for
Right.
us. Now, in that regard, what types of new businesses would you like to see Phoenix attract, and how do we get in that line an educated workforce to fill those kinds of jobs that we want to see here?
Right. That's a really good question. One of the things, I think one of the industries that is a no-brainer for Phoenix is data management, data storage and management. Everybody's moving to the cloud. We need to have the cloud here. We don't have natural disasters, we don't have fires, or earthquakes, we don't have tornadoes, we don't have hurricanes. This is a perfect place for data management and data storage. And it's a huge industry, especially as we move medical records to digital format. So the cloud is going to get bigger. We need to have the cloud right here in Phoenix. The other thing we need to do is continue to do things like we did with TGen, and I worked for TGen for 9 years and helped do the strategic work at the beginning to attract Jeff Trent and to get TGen.
Although I saw that Stanton claimed credit for that too, is that right?
He claims credit. We were both. I actually have been working for them every day for 9 years, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
But we've got to look to the next one, the next teaching. What is it? And I think that it may be in brain science, because we're doing incredible work, cutting edge work in autism, in Alzheimer's, Barrow's neurological.
Well, frankly, it's amazing to me the city of Phoenix is not more far ahead, if you will, or advanced in terms of biosciences. This would be the ideal place for it, it seems to me. We have an elderly population, which, and by the way, before our break, we got about a minute. Why is the trending direction of Phoenix toward the elderly and Hispanic? What is that all about?
Well, the Hispanic birth rate is higher than non-Hispanic.
So is that just an educational thing? We have to educate people on birth control or what?
No, it has to, it just has to do with the influx of population too. We're not attracting people to come here like we used to. And so our population, now we also have a very young population because of that Hispanic birth rate, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that, and it is.
Well, you can't just have a city based on that though.
No,
you got to attract.
We have to have a diverse
Yeah.
economy and a diverse and be able to attract a diverse population. The way we do that is by getting the economy going again. And people say, oh, you're just focused on small business and those aren't good jobs. They are, because they're the businesses of the
It's the
future.
backbone of this country. That's how I check.
Exactly. 90% of the jobs are created from small business. And we don't know. It's presumptuous of us to think that we know what the good jobs are. We don't know that this small business might be the next Dell computer.
That's exactly right. All right, well, we're going to take a break right now. We're talking with Wes Gullett, who is a Republican candidate for the mayor of Phoenix. The election again, November 8th.
Right.
So go out and vote. And this is Dennis Wilenchik on Legalese. We'll be right back. This is Dennis Wilenchik, and we're back on Legalese, brought to you every Wednesday from 4 to 5, leading into the Lou Dobbs Show. And today we've been talking with, hopefully, our next mayor of the city of Phoenix, which we hope to soon be back to the 5th largest city. I was corrected that we're now the 6th largest city in the country, and Philadelphia, apparently, Wes has pointed out, has overtaken us, which, as I said, is kind of a scary thought. But maybe being big isn't always the best either, so who knows?
Well, 6 is pretty big.
Yeah, 6 is pretty big.
It's
and the truth is, people don't know that don't live here, but all of our communities are sort of blended together,
Right.
And so really,
Phoenix has a variety of diversity.
Yeah.
We've got suburban lifestyle, we've got historic neighborhoods, we've got downtown living.
let's talk about downtown while you're on that. I'm
Okay.
glad you brought that up in the time we have left, because my son, who happens to live downtown, has a condo downtown at the Orpheum. We've talked about that before in the show, but what's going on with downtown? That was a priority of our current mayor. Is that a priority for you to make that vibrant for once?
We've got to have a vibrant downtown. There's no question. It's the center of the metropolitan area, and
So people see when they come here, really.
And the other thing we've got to do is we've got to focus on downtown because we've sunk so much infrastructure.
Yeah.
We've got $1.5 billion to $2 billion worth of infrastructure downtown with ASU downtown. We've got the light rail. We've got the new hotel. We've got the convention center. There is a lot of stuff
going on
downtown.
But still, in my opinion, not enough, quite frankly.
Well, one of the
when you
things
travel around.
one of my pet peeves, and it's symbolic, is we doubled the parking meter fees.
Yeah.
We doubled the parking garage fees, and then we doubled the fines if your parking meter goes red.
It's insane, isn't
and
it?
then it wouldn't surprise me if we doubled the parking meter maids that
Yeah,
are
yeah.
going around.
This is a
doing
great
it.
point you're on now.
And that's exactly the opposite of what it should go. You shouldn't have to have a wheelbarrow full of quarters to go park downtown. That's the way I feel when I go
And you don't
downtown.
even have those new machines that most cities have.
Right.
In Europe they have.
Which will take your credit card.
Yeah.
And we voted against it. So, come on.
Yeah.
If we want a vibrant downtown, let's symbolically lower the parking meter rates. Let's invite people downtown. Let's say it's easy to come downtown. And we've got light rail coming in. We've got have cheap parking. Get people downtown so that they can enjoy the
Yeah, you need to have
vibrancy
people
and all
come
the
back in
investment.
the evenings, on the weekends. You go and walk downtown Phoenix. I've never really seen this anywhere in the country, quite frankly. It's dead. It's literally dead.
Right.
And the businesses that are going into the new city center, or whatever it's called, Cityscape, I'm getting confused, but who knows how long they'll last? It's kind of like what happened to the other place. What is it? The first development.
Arizona Center.
Arizona Center. Thanks. I just lost it.
Well, and part of that attraction is having retail that works, but we also have to have, in Seattle, by policy, they have mixed use or mixed market
Right.
rates on living. So it's not all condos.
Right.
You've got
Vibrant.
You've got market rate apartments. You've got affordable housing for the workforce. You've got a mix of uses for
Yeah, Portland, Seattle, they're just beautiful cities. They're doing great. They've dedicated, areas you can walk down like Denver has now.
And the reason they do that is to keep bodies on the street, to have a vibrant downtown. It makes sense, and it takes pressure off some of your other areas.
So what are we
for
going to
those-
do here when you're mayor?
We've got to mix it up. We've got to mix up the affordable market rate apartments. We've got to allow that to happen downtown. We've got to let the market do its thing. But how do you do that? You reduce the cost.
The barriers of entry.
You cut friction. You make it easy for people to do that. And you make it easy for those businesses, and you don't make it harder on First Friday.
Yeah.
You actually let the gourmet trucks come downtown. You actually, my favorite was, we've got all these parking restrictions, and then we're going to create a new permitting process for the valet parkers. Come on.
No common sense.
Opposite what we need to do.
Well,
We need
let's
to
also
cut
talk
that.
about another problem with downtown while we're on it with the time we have. It seems to me, and again, I'm downtown a lot because I go to court a lot, but it seems to me, notwithstanding the heat and everything, which can be dealt with through shade, structures, and trees, which they're doing a pretty good job of, but there's no life to it, right? I mean, there's just no life to the place. It's dead, and you don't see that, as I said, in other cities. So you've got to do something, either create a zone where you have, shopping with no cars or something, to just liven the place up, don't you?
Right, and it's got to be more walkable.
Well, what about the transient issues? That's the other thing I want to talk to you about.
Well,
It's a real problem down there.
Yeah, we've made CAS. CAS is one of our partners. The Central Arizona Shelter Services is like it or not, it is a downtown partner.
Yeah.
And we've got to
Well,
deal.
we've had the head of that on the show, actually.
Yeah, we've got to deal with that issue in a humane way and understand that. But you know how you do it. You play through it. And you add more bodies. Everybody. We had a debate last night downtown, and there's two couples that were there that live in 44 Monroe.
Yeah.
They love it.
Former client of mine.
And they were fired up. And they wanted to hear, what are we going to do next? What are we going to do next? And like your son, we have to attract businesses downtown. We shouldn't do it through incentives that are just taking away from 24th Street and Camelback.
Yeah,
and moving
yeah, of
down.
course.
But we need to go out and market downtown. We need to make sure that they are there. We need to make sure that partner with government and say, okay, state government, downtown's a good place to be. It's really close to where you are.
Seems like you got to tie in the state government, which of course we have a capital here in the city. You have to tie in the state government area with the city, don't you? It's like a zone between the two that's
Right.
kind of unmanageable and unwalkable and untouchable, isn't it?
Yeah, but create the kind of partnerships with the state government, with county government, to make sure that.
Well, let's talk about that. How's your relationship with the governor?
It's good. She endorsed me last week. It was we had. I'm looking forward to campaigning with her. She's helping me raise money, and we're going to work together. And I think that's really important to be able to work with the legislature and work with the governor on these economic development, because at the end of the day, it's about the economy and jobs. You've got to create jobs, and if we can do it downtown, that's great because we can add to that vibrancy. But we've got to take advantage of ASU too.
Well, yeah, that's another good point. And I think one of the points I want to make before we leave today is, the problem is, although it's a nonpartisan race, or so it's said, the reality is that you're a Republican, the governor's Republican, the legislature here is the Republican legislature, essentially. And so the reality is, one of the things that troubles people, I think, nationally with the Obama administration is just the fact that nothing gets done because there's deadlock. One of the advantages I see of you being mayor is that won't be a problem.
Right, we can work together. And I can reach out to Democrats as well. But what we've got, the idea that you've been in government your whole life, the president is finding this out right now. He's having a hard time dealing with the economy because he's been in government his whole life.
Yeah.
And
He doesn't get it.
that's the same way with Greg Stanton. He's been in government his whole life, and he doesn't get it.
Let me ask you something about that. Well, before we go for the day, One of the criticisms, of course, that I know you want to address is that you have a business.
Right.
And you're running a business.
Yeah.
And they want you to resign from this business because they say it would be a conflict. Would it be?
I don't believe it would be, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
I'm selling my business.
Okay.
Greg Stanton attacks me every day. He
Yeah.
says, you got to put your clients on, out, you're hiding your clients. My clients are all on my website.
Yeah.
Every one of my clients is on my website and has been. We don't have a conflict, but and
It's a
when I
full-time
sell,
job being
right,
there,
and
so-
when I sell my business, I'm not going to have a conflict, and you know how it works. Former clients are former clients,
Of course.
right?
Of course.
Now,
Of course.
you understand how they work and they operate, and that's a good thing to have knowledge about how the private
Well, to
sector
get things
works.
done, you got to know people.
Yeah, and what I've done for the last 9 years is I've been a strategic planner. I have been an advocate as well, but my main focus is being a strategic planner and running a small business. Those are skills that the mayor's office needs. Because we understand that you can't build your foundation for the future on sand. You got to build it on rock. And if you do that, you're going to be successful. So how do you do that? You reduce costs. You put a sign up that says we're open for business because we're doing things that no one else is doing. You reform the way the government works so you're more nimble and more entrepreneurial. And then you go out and sell.
Well, what would be your highest priority before we take our break for the day? What would be your highest priority as soon as you get in office?
We got to get this economy going again.
Okay.
And that means we've got to lower cost.
All right, well, we've been talking with Wes Gullett today. It's been a pleasure. We hope he succeeds as mayor, and you can all help doing that. On November 8th, you can vote, and next week we'll see you 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock leading into the Lou Dobbs Show. And after this news break, you'll be hearing from Lou. So take care, my listeners, and Wes, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Dennis. I really appreciate being here.
Same here. Take care.